know this to be the case about people. They're always ready to look into our lives and to accuse, to judge, to verbalize opinions, to criticize, to tell us what we're doing wrong and what we could do better. And yet, like Job, we have to know who to listen to and who to ignore. That's the crux of this message. Who to listen to and who to ignore so we don't get led astray, follow someone else's advice that we shouldn't, and end up changing our story, which gives us an ending that God didn't intend. In other words, I'm talking about the voices, not the ones in your head, but the ones in your life. What voices do you listen to? What people do you give your ear to? Because so much of where you end up will depend on who you let speak into your life. That's a fact. And so we need to know that. We need some guidance on who to listen to and who to ignore. Okay? That's what a lot of this is going to be about. Some steps you can take to make sure you're listening to the right voices. Step number 1 is crash the chatterbox. Somebody say crash the chatterbox.
Crash the chatterbox.
That's a term made up by a preacher who is not too far away from here. And it's a good term. I like it. So I stole it. All right? Crash the chatterbox. Back in the day, people used to say that when you got criticized or somebody gave you advice, you should treat it like a piece of gum. Anybody ever heard that from back in the day? Does that sound familiar? Treat it like a piece of gum. You should take it, you should chew on it for a little while. If it takes, all right, well, there you go. If it doesn't, spit it out. The point of the analogy is this. You should take that criticism and that advice from anyone. You just may not want to follow through with all of it. Chew on it for a little while and see if it works for you. Makes a little bit of sense, I assume. But guess what? Times are changing. You're the starting quarterback now, Mox. That's another reference. Not very good. All right? Thank you. Varsity Blues. Today we live in a society of social media and a world of trolls. Today we live in a world where people you barely even know, or maybe that you don't know at all, who can almost anonymously comment or put a message on your Facebook or your Twitter or your Snapchat or whatever it is, with no accountability at all, with no repercussions of a physical conflict, with nothing but the complete and utter freedom to almost anonymously type in some advice or criticism of your life and of who you are. See, there used to be what I call the fist factor. Anybody ever heard of the fist factor? Probably not, because I made it up. Okay? Here's what the fist factor is. Especially in times when you want to criticize somebody else, you want to tell them what they're doing wrong. Here's what the fist factor is. Back in the day, you used to have those kind of conversations in person, face to face. I don't like what Patrick's doing. I'm going to have to call a meeting. I'm going to go talk with him. There's no other way to do it. There ain't no computer or interweb, okay? I can't just type something from the comfort of my house with my gun by my side. I can't do it. I got to go see the man. I got to sit across from him. And that did two things back then. Number one, it created an investment of time on my part to even do that. And right away, that cut out 80% of the criticism because we're lazy. And we ain't going to take the time to go meet with somebody to tell them we don't like how they're living or they need to do something different. So 80% of it was just gone. The other 20% that actually happened was governed by the fist. And what that means is this. When you're sitting across from somebody, you're not going to say some of those things you put on Facebook or Twitter because you're going to get punched in the freaking face. Right in the mouth. Knock the freak out, okay? So it cut down a lot of the nonsense that we see now. We see stuff on the internet, whether it's on Facebook or especially bottom of articles where people just anonymously post stuff. It is the nastiest, meanest, most violent, satanic stuff you will ever read. And the people that have time to do that, holy crap, go find a hobby. Get a woman. I mean, do something. It's ridiculous. I remember, just to give you an example, the little boy at Disney that got eaten by the alligator. Tragedy. Try to imagine that happening to your little baby. That's a boy was like Micah's age. You go to any article, you're not just going to find condolences, I'm so sorry for it. You're going to find idiots who don't go by the rule of the fist because they're anonymous sitting in a bedroom, they just got off of a porn site, and they just want to feel important. And so they talk about how the parents shouldn't have them over there. Parents should have been keeping better care of them. Nobody asked you. It's my Mr. T voice. You feel me? You know what I'm saying, though? That's the society we live in. And the point is this. There's no fist factor anymore. And so, what does it mean? It means that if you want to listen to the right voices in your life, you've got to crash the chatterbox. That's the chatterbox. People that go in the periphery of your life that just try to speak into it. Try to tell you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Crash the chatterbox. And the whole illustration with the gum, you ain't got time to do that in today's world. You can't listen to everybody's criticism and advice. You can't chew on it all. Your teeth will rot out. There's too much. Times are changing. So that analogy, in my opinion, my humble opinion, no longer works. Proverbs 18:2 says this. Proverbs 18:2. Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. Ever met somebody like that? Never been somebody like that. Proverbs 29:20 says this. Do you see somebody who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for him. In another section of the Bible, I believe it's James, it says you should be slow to speak, quick to listen. Same thing. These people, they're the chatterbox in your life. And some of y'all have a terrible addiction to social media, and it's killing you and you don't even know. You're allowing people online to cause you sleepless nights. You're allowing people online to get inside your head based on what they say, what they posted, what they commented, and you don't think it's taking a toll, but ask your family because they see it. Ask your family because they feel it. They feel it's taking a toll. You know what? Because when you're there, you're still not really there. Some of us need to put our phones up. Get back to the 80s in a way that's more about, not even the music was the bomb, yo. But I'm talking about just cut off some of that technology because it's stealing your life away. And it's stealing you from your children and from your spouse. Oh, I can handle it. No, you can't. No, you can't. Worried about people you barely even know who don't care about you. You've got little kids running around your feet that think you're the world. Let that marinate. And it slows your whole life down. It slows your whole life down. You ever had an iPhone start to run slow, and you're like, ah, it looks normal, I don't know why it's doing it, but you press that button at the bottom, and you see there's like 30 apps running behind it? My wife does that. She never gets off of apps. And so like when I get her phone, I'm going to be like 57 things open. I'll have to get them all off. But it slows the whole system down. And that's how many of us are. You are allowing a virtual line of people to occupy the space in your mind. And even though it seems like you're sitting there with your kids or with your spouse, you are running slow because you've got 57 apps open in your head. 57 conversations that you're still thinking about. Oh, but I'm here with my kids. No, you're not. Grow up. Crash the chatterbox. The chatterbox are people you may or may not know. They're on the periphery, which is the outside of your life. They are not invested in you. They do not spend their time on you. And so they should not get a say-so about you. Let me give you one more example of the chatterbox. It's really important. Anybody watch college football yesterday? What about NFL? Playing and watching NFL today? I'm convicted right now. I totally plan on wearing my Gamecock jersey. My wife had hers. I picked it out for her. But then yesterday happened. And I'm just like, I love the Gamecocks, but I'm like, you know, the Dolphins, they still got a shot. Maybe they're going to do something this year. So anyway, I'm sorry. Let's take Dabo Swinney and Ron Rivera of the Panthers. You know Ron Rivera, you know Dabo, right? Let's take them as an example. Let's say, think of the one that you like, and they're in a very important game. And it's the fourth quarter, time's about to run out, there's only a couple seconds left. Your team has the ball on the 2-yard line, and you're down by 4. And it's 4th down, so you've got to score. And not only that, but the team you're up against has one of the most complex and the best goal line defenses that there is in either college football or the National Football League. You got that in your head? That's where we're at. Let me ask you a question. Okay? Do you know who Ron Rivera and Dabo, you know who they're not going to ask about the play that they need to run? They're not going to ask the guy sitting in the seat on the 50-yard line with the beer belly and the white face paint with 2 Budweisers in his hand. They're not going to ask him. But let me tell you something. I promise you, that guy has an opinion about what play should happen. I promise you he does. And if the play the coach has actually run doesn't win the game, I can promise you he's going to tell his friends how stupid that coach is and explain what that coach should have done. Because, man, he would have won the game if they had just listened to him. Does anybody in here think that Dabo or Ron should have asked that guy for the play? It's ridiculous. That's the chatterbox. That's who he represents. And when you listen to people like that, who are not invested in your life, who do not know the inside workings of what you deal with on a day-to-day basis, when you take their advice and let their opinions of your life matter and cause you a sleepless moment, it's just as ridiculous as a coach asking a fan what the next play should be. Think about it.